Hello, Sensemaker, and welcome to Making Sense of Ourselves, the podcast about the hard work it takes to get to know yourself. My name is Abby Covert, and my pronouns are she and her. As the chief sensemaker at the Sensemakers Club, I have the privilege and honor of hearing from new voices every day on topics ranging from brass tacks information architecture to esoteric philosophical unanswerable questions about life and how hard it is to be a human. For this season of Making Sense of Ourselves, we're trying something new. We're hosting a live recording session for members of the club to contribute to our podcast every month. Each episode, you'll hear me and a group of other people whose perspectives and experiences differ from my own and likely yours. During this episode, you'll hear clips from real members of the Sensemakers Club sharing their thoughts, some off the cuff, some deeply considered. Then you'll be hearing from Alfi after the discussion when he joins me for a debrief. And I assure you, every good host needs a good debrief. We're excited to play with this new format and see where it lands us. Happy listening, Sensemaker. On today's episode, we'll be talking about support and community. We get into what's so hard about making and keeping adult friends, the flat tire and dirty dish test for friendship authenticity, and Oodle's more vulnerable shares from Mike, Holly, Matt, and Taryn. Thanks up front to them for their willingness to speak publicly on this squishy and squarely personal topic. This was a really special episode to record, especially since it's the first one. I personally think that we did a really fabulous job of jumping right into the depths of what it means to be human, and I attribute that to the year plus that many of us have spent participating in these types of small group discussions at the Sensemakers Club. Make sure to stay tuned after the discussion to hear my recap with Alfi. Okay, now on with the show. I live in a small town, and I've lived here for 9 years, and I would say that it has been only with super conscious commitment that I have been able to create a community here. And honestly, I think it's only been in like the last 2 or 3 years that I can say that I have started to feel like I have that. And the way that I currently measure whether or not I have a good community health is whether or not I could call somebody that's not related to me if I got a flat tire. Like that's the local measure for me. Or like if I needed a ride to a doctor's appointment, or I needed somebody to leave my kid with for like a couple hours last minute, like those kinds of support needs. So yeah, I'm really interested to know, like, what's the current status of your real life community? Do you have one? And if you do, how did you build it?
My youngest runs cross country and track. He's in high school, and the group of parents that attend cross country and track meets across Eastern Iowa have just been, they're phenomenal and super helpful. If I had a flat and there's a group chain of parents where you would, in all honesty, you'd probably have to fend them off, right? Like when it sounds like you might have a problem, there's probably 3 or 4 that are, I'll be there right away. And
that's awesome.
That actually feels really nice, really good. And so looking forward to cross-country season starting again in the fall for high school for selfish reasons.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I have so much hope that I would eventually have a situation like that with other parents. Yeah, Holly.
Well, I've lived in the same city my whole life. That helps. I know a gazillion people. I can't go to the grocery store or Target or anywhere without seeing someone I know, because St. Louis is the biggest small town ever. I had a lot of friendships that I realized during the pandemic that were situational. Not that they wouldn't love me if I called them. So now I'm having to kind of rebuild in a new way. And I definitely have people I can call if something gets weird. But it's different, and I feel like I need to be a little more intentional. But at the same time, I also love that I'm still friendly with my friend Becky from 7th grade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, it's nice to still know people from when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to get that perspective too, especially like starting by saying that I moved to a place. It's like you didn't move to a place. You were like in the place, and you've always been in the place, and like your set of having to be conscious about things is different than my set. But we both have to be conscious about it. Otherwise, community just doesn't happen, you know? That's awesome. Well, I do want to talk about this like situational thing, or like I don't know, more like what Alfi Oloo would call the acquaintance level of relationship. Like, what role do those acquaintances play in your support system? And how do you keep those connections alive? Like, is it just about smiling at a person when you're like passing by them? Is it about remembering things about them? Like, what do you do to just keep in just an acquaintanceship with someone?
I don't think I'm good at acquaintanceship. I know how to be friends or really good friends. I'm not good at just like skimming the surface. I I feel like I would, I mean, I can, but that's just not my preference. So I think probably more at work where where I share less of myself.
For me, I spend a lot more time in like my current friendships and like developing those and having really like deep, like best friend level. Like that's where I probably spend like the majority of my time. As somebody that's been job searching on and off or client searching on and off for the past, couple of years or whatever, I think I've read a lot about like the networking component of it, and that a lot of networking comes from weak ties, and the people that have the most success in it spend like, you want to kind of just be in your comfort zone and be with the people that you really like. But the best type of networking is like going out and meeting new people or investing in these like weak ties. So I'm very aware of that. I have some hesitation around like anything that feels transactional. So I want it to still feel authentic.
What about strangers? Do y'all get deep with strangers? Like, I have a friend that I make fun of because every time that she takes an Uber, she becomes like best friends with the Uber driver and knows like intimate details of their life by the end of the drive. I just think that's like super impressive as a skill set.
It's a lot easier to me with a stranger than an acquaintance, because like I don't have to have like I know that I don't know anything about them, so I can like dig really deep. And this is why the acquaintance thing is probably hard, is probably because like I've dug deep when they were a stranger and then I don't remember. So like now they're
no.
Like, that makes
it like, there's a flaw in your strategy there, Taryn, I think.
I definitely think so too.
You're like recreationally digging deep with folks and not committing it to a file or something.
That is definitely what's happening. And I think it's the part of my brain that's like trying to do patterns across people. And I'm like interested, like, I'm like, oh, cool, they fit into this pattern. And so like, I don't know, I feel a little bit bad. It's not as much about like I do want to like connect with people, but it's really more just like, oh, this is how people think and work. And like, it's a enjoyable experience for me in that regard. And then I've like put them into the patterns, and I don't remember who originally gave me the data.
Oh my gosh, you've forgotten about the instances. You're stuck on the objects. You're just like at the pattern level with everything. Yeah, Mike.
So I think that there are a couple of things that come to mind when you talk about the interacting with strangers. And one is that, I was trained as a librarian and worked as a reference librarian. So the majority of the people that I would interact with, I didn't know anything about. So I became very good at asking open-ended questions to try to get people to clarify. And so I tend to do that in encounters with strangers, not at the reference desk, because I don't work at a reference desk anymore. But it ends up being that I know someone who has a similar interest, and that kind of a thing. So it almost like help making connections with people. But the one thing that people, and it surprises me, I feel like I have an alter ego outside of Sensemakers Club, because very few people in Sensemakers know that I do a lot of stuff with food. And because of that, a lot of the people that I know are wanting information about food, or asking about a restaurant, or a suggestion for a place to go eat, or, oh, I have this ingredient that somebody gave me. What can I make with it? Those kinds of questions. So I feel like I'm reverting to form and being a reference librarian, but it's usually about food things.
Do you ever feel like you're the only one that's trying to make sense of messy systems, shifting careers, and big life decisions? You're not. At the Sensemakers Club, we're a global community of curious humans who meet every single day to talk through the complex stuff together. It's like professional development meets real talk without the performance. Join a discussion, ask a better question, and stop making sense alone. Visit thesensemakersclub.com and use the code ILISTEN to get 50% off your first 3 months. Hope to see you soon, Sensemaker. So I want to talk about going past the situationship or the acquaintanceship. Let's talk about making friends. I want to hear about the last friend that you made. I want to know, like, when somebody passes that acquaintance test and you want to develop like a deeper relationship with them, like, how do you do that?
I feel like I'm in the process of this with somebody new, but the conversation we had yesterday with the making sense of relationships, Emily said this interesting thing about having friends in Germany, and one of her German friends said something about like taking the stairs to friendship instead of the elevator. And it reminds me very much of the Brene Brown idea of like marbles in the marble jar and like slowly like building trust in these like small moments over time. And I think historically, when I was younger, I was like trying to vet people to see if they could get to like the depth that I wanted to get to, and moving the relationship along like pretty quickly by like asking very probing questions, which it works well in what I do for a living to be able to like dig down into things. But I'm curious about like playing with this like slow burn idea of a friendship and like letting it like evolve a little bit more over time and seeing how that changes the dynamic of it. I think there's like a downside to it too, where like I've been in a relationship before with a person that was very much like, I'm, more of the Buddhist philosophy and I just want to be present and I don't want to plan anything to the future. And I ate that up when I was dating this person because I was like, yeah, totally. Let's just be present. And then I realized, oh, this person can't commit to anything like eventually. So there's like a scale to like, the slowness or like the being presentness, and then also like actually like committing to something. And I think that it's not so black and white to me, and I'm not exactly sure like where I land on the scale at this point.
Yeah, I think that for me, just going back to some of the parents of our kids' different activities that they were in, and it tends to be more so my son, because my son's really extroverted. My daughter's a little more introverted, so it tends to be like more probability of interacting with more of friends' parents. But it just like, certain things come up in conversation. Oh, hey, I'm doing this. Oh, that sounds interesting. I did blank. And then starting to think about what people like or are interested in. And one was just asking a couple of the dads if they wanted to go to a concert a while back, a few years back. But Jason Isbell and the 400 unit were playing in town, and like they put on a good show. I think you guys might like it. All right. And then another one's like, sounds good. Why don't we go grab some dinner and some beers beforehand? And then another one was like, okay, and I'll be the designated driver. And then, then that just like, kind of built on, okay, here's something else that might be interesting to go do. And then that also just leads to hanging out. But it's because it starts like, for me, I think events or going to an event feels safer. But then it's like, now it's just like, might even be just checking in and, oh yeah, I'm just finished up lawn mowing. If you want to sit in the backyard, I got cold beers. Okay.
That's
when
awesome.
You're at your sweaty best.
My friend group example most recently was going to the Barbie movie. It was like when the Barbie movie came out, was that 2 summers ago? And there was a bunch of women at my gym, and like we had never hung out outside of the gym. And the Barbie movie was sort of like, oh, have you seen the Barbie movie yet? And I was the only person who had seen it And so I was like, I really liked it and I will see it again. And so me and one other woman like spearheaded this, like, we've seen it and we want other women to see it. And so we took like a group of 8 women from the gym to go see this movie. And like ever since then, there's just been like other things that people have done. They're like, oh, we're going to go do this. We're going to do that. It's really nice. So that pattern definitely works, Matt.
So I read a book. It's by a UX designer. She talks about like making friends as an adult. And she talks about like when we were younger or like you maybe were in college, you just like came over to each other's like messy dorm rooms. And I had a friend who usually hosts like this bachelorette night that her place is like so beautiful and like she organizes it so well. And she couldn't host one night and I had to host. And I was like, I don't have enough seats. Like everybody's going to sit on the floor. It's kind of like we're camping sort of thing. And I realized that the combination of the book where she says like leave dirty dishes in your sink and invite people over so that like they feel more like there's like a different level that you're reaching. And then having everybody sit on the floor, people stayed until after midnight. And that had never happened at this other friend's house that was like put together and like Instagram worthy and stuff. So I think I've changed my opinion on like, let me be more casual because then people also invite me over to their places when they're more casual and they don't have it put together. And we get to be like true friends in like a little bit of the mess, you know?
So I have one final closing question for you all with the 1 minute that we have left. Looking back on your support system from community to network, all the way through to your deepest friends and the people that you can call to get you on the side of the road, what's something that you realize about how support shows up in your life right now? Yeah, Matt.
I think the showing up is like part of my fear is to make an ask. And I did have advice from a friend one time that just said, just make the ask. Don't be afraid. If they are friends, they're going to be there for you. But, it's like, don't want to impose on people. But then I've found it relieving when it's like, oh, hey, I have this issue. Can you help me out? And like right away. And not only selfishly does the thing get resolved, but then it felt better emotionally too, to not worry about the thing itself, but then also to know that you do have a network that is there to support you.
Yeah. Oh, having a problem is the number one way to see that you have a network for sure. Yeah, Holly.
I think for me, reciprocity has been like a theme that's come up for me a lot. I think equality in friendships in terms of effort and time is like probably just not going to happen in most cases. People's lives just aren't arranged that way. But, the quality of friendship to me is usually is there good reciprocity here? Like, do I feel like both of us are putting in the same amount of, I guess, like effort to our ability? Right. Like, and, because friendships are so meaningful to me. They're a big deal. I highly, highly value relationships.
I would say it's something that I learned when I was an undergrad, or I guess I was in grad school, but I had gone to see a therapist, and he said, you have to understand that the true meaning of what a friendship is to you is when you're done talking to the person, most of the time, you feel better.
That's a really good gauge. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to like relationships and stuff, I think I focus a lot on like the emotional component of it and like the supporting others in that element. But I think your question at the very beginning of like, you're on the side of the road, like, who do you call, has made me go like, oh, I think I have a little bit of a, like, because I rely so much more on like the emotional side and I don't rely so much more on the physical side. And I'm always like, I'm super independent. I'll do everything myself. I think like what has been happening generally for me in the last like chunk of time is that I'm realizing that I need more of this like physical component, and it feels scary to admit that. Like, in a way, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to feel that way. But I think that it's just becoming more prevalent in my life to realize that like although I do have these friendships that are like these long-term friendships where I have them in these ways that I can meet people online, it's like the in-person interactions that you can experience different things. Like even if you're just silent in a room together, like watercoloring, like that's an experience that you can have in person. And I think our nervous systems need the in-person components. And I can't really like ignore that anymore. I think it's like something that would actually make my life a little bit more like well-rounded in a way. Yeah.
I think the thing that I'm realizing from this conversation is that I need to like trust the process. Like I feel like I have a little kid, you know, like my kid's 6. And so he doesn't have like a lot of cemented friendships, and we're still shopping around for activities, and like we're still kind of in and out with people in different families and stuff, and birthday parties. But it feels like if I zoom out and look down the road of like what all that investment will eventually put out into my life for the support system, that it's like it's every move that I'm making now, but it's like so slow that I won't be able to feel it. If you're curious, stuck, or somewhere in between, the Sensemakers Club is for you. We host peer-led conversations every weekday about things that don't come with easy answers, like capitalism, complexity, neurodiversity, and change. Not gurus, no grind, just thoughtful people asking better questions. Ready to think out loud with folks who actually listen? Visit thesensemakersclub.com and use the code ILISTEN to get 50% off your first 3 months. Alfi. That was a really fun conversation. I'm pretty excited to tell you about it. How are you, first of all?
I'm doing well. My life has been a little bit of a tornado since this weekend, but the tornado has passed and I am alive and kicking.
Good. I'm glad to hear
it. How are
it.
you?
I'm well. I feel like the conversation that I had with the community this month was a good representation of like where I'm at. I'm like in between a lot of things and trying to figure out like where my community is and like what support I have. But I feel like overall things are going really well. So yeah. I thought it was really interesting because at the beginning of getting online to record today, Alfie had to do his tech setup. And like rather than like come back after he had everything set up, he did it while I was listening. And I thought, based on this conversation that I just had with the community, I was thinking about how much that indicates the trust that we have in our relationship. And there was actually this concept that Taryn brought up about having what she called dirty dish friends. And this was like people that you could have over to your place and you'd have dirty dishes and then you would still be like comfortable. And I had also like talked about kind of like flat tire friends, like friends that you could call when something was like going wrong on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, so I don't know. Do you have any like dirty dish friends or flat tire friends in your community these days?
Oh, that is a good question. Definitely flat tire friends, a couple. Although, to be honest, I usually sort of lean on my brothers because they're actually that inner circle for me. And so when something of that nature would happen, they'd be my first choice. Because also a lot of my friends are either in Johannesburg or further than Johannesburg. So sure. I actually don't have very many flat tire friends in driving distance, which is probably not a good plan.
This was something we talked about, though. Like, if you have this support system, it's something that you either have to be around and kind of like have organically built around you, like something like your family, or it's something that you have to like build very intentionally by putting like time into other people. And so, yeah, I feel like having that balance. There was people in each camp, like people who felt like, you know, they were in a town that they didn't know anybody and they had to like build that. And that's where I was. And I feel like I've kind of built something over the last couple of years. And then there was other people who felt like they grew up in a place. And so they've always like had this slow building of place, whether it be family or friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's always interesting to think about your network with like a specific objective or task in mind. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like you see it through a new light, sometimes for the first time, or maybe you just kind of see something new. But it kind of opens you up to things that you don't get to think about on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that was definitely the result of this conversation for a lot of folks. It's just kind of like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. Like we had this really interesting conversation about like the mode that you're kind of in when making new friends. And some people were what someone described as like taking the stairs or like slow burn friendships, where you're sort of like building and building over time. And then other people were more like elevator friendships, where they were just like going straight to the top and like really like digging into the vulnerability right away. And I thought that was really interesting because I have both. Like in my life, I feel like I have slow burn friendships, and then I have more like what I would call house on fire friendships, where I just sort of like dive in. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have like a style?
Specifically of building the relationship?
Yeah.
I would say I'm kind of more like a meet you where you're at and see how it feels. Because I kind of feel like I can play both gears really well. And for that reason, I know some people prefer to kind of just go straight in and others don't. So because I can kind of play the waters on both sides, I kind of meet you where you're at and then see like, is it worth whether it's like the elevator or the stairs, is it worth going further?
Yeah.
And then based on that, I'll kind of like decide what gear to go. But I typically like to go as fast as the person feels comfortable with.
That would be very interesting to see you stuck in a cab, like a taxi cab, with some of the people that were responding in our session. Because one of them was talking about how she loved to go like super, super, super deep and vulnerable with strangers. But that when it came to people that she actually knows, she doesn't do that so much. And it's like a little bit harder to like get her to get vulnerable. And I thought that was so interesting because like if, for example, somebody like you, the beginning of the friendship is that you're taking that lead, like, yeah, you're going to go to like 100 with that person. And then they're maybe going to drop off the cliff of vulnerability because like now they actually know you, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was a really interesting conversation. I felt like the number one like takeaway for me was honestly there was two parents on the call, both of whom really talked about like how much being in like the same place, raising a family, and like the process of meeting other parents in those kinds of situations and contexts, like how much that's kind of built their network over time. And I was reflecting on how like I've done really well in the 9 years that I've been in this small town, like making my own way without that being like the center. But that like I still have that to come, you know, like my kid is little, and when they're little, they sort of like pop from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And it's not really like as much like digging into something. So we're like just starting to see the beginnings of that. So I feel like, yeah, my main takeaway from this episode was like, you got to trust the process when you're building your support network a little bit. Like there are parts of it that we're building intentionally, but then there's other parts of it that like we kind of recognize only after building it. And it's from like showing up. And just like there was one person, Mike Creech, who I know you know from the sessions that we've had. He said that if he had a flat tire on the side of the road, he could think of 50 people, 50 people that he could call.
Wow.
Because he's lived in the same small town for, I think he said 30 years. And he's really like just dug in on like the community aspect. He shows up and like he shows up for his friends. And yeah, I thought that was like a pillar of the community type of vibe. It was very cool.
That's
to find
amazing.
Out.
Sheesh, hats off to him.
I know, right? Anyways, so that's our like first episode of recording. I felt like it was it's a neat format. Like I'm excited for you to listen to the conversation and
no, I'm definitely keen. And it's kind of like, especially now that I've kind of got cliff notes, but not the through line, it'll be interesting to see how each of those conversations sort of unfold. But maybe before we dive into the next segment, I'd be interested to hear like, having planned it and now having done it, was it what you expected? Was it different from what you expected? Were there things that came up which you didn't see coming? What are your thoughts?
I think my main reaction is like, I didn't know what to expect. And it was better than I expected, if that's possible. Like, I tried really hard to think of how it would be, and I didn't know exactly how it would feel. And my biggest concern was that it wouldn't feel like a small group discussion like we have at the club. And I feel like it did feel like that. So I don't know if it'll be interesting to other people to listen to. Like, that's the next kind of hurdle, is like, is that interesting? But in terms of hosting it, it was really enjoyable. Like, I felt like I was able to kind of lean into the conversation and be there. And that was surprising to me, just because, like, I was nervous. I was very nervous. Yeah. So, well, I know that the audience hasn't heard from us in a real long time. So I know that they're going to want to know, Alfie, how made sense of are you these days?
You know, I have to say, I do. If we maybe ignore the past 4 days, I would say I'm in a pretty made sense of stage at the moment. If I kind of zoom out to the last, let's say, 1.5 to 2 years, it has felt like there are many different parts of my life going in different directions, and I'm working to weave them together. It's like trying to make sure no strand is kind of going off on its own. And it doesn't feel like that anymore. I feel like I've gone into a stage where I'm in a good rhythm. Like, I have got things that take up big chunks of time, and I feel like they're prioritized correctly. I have things that are maybe... And so, for example, my job is one of those things. I feel like I have got the best relationship I have had with a job ever, which is good.
Hey.
And that relationship is a job and not more than that.
Sure. That's the best relationship you can have with a job.
Exactly. It has the benefits, it has the drawbacks, it has its frustrations, but at the end of the day, I have room for the things that I care about. I'm also really looking at thinking intentionally about the next phase of my life. Like looking forward rather than kind of like trying to tie up loose ends. So that feels good. It feels really good. Yeah.
That's good.
That's where I am.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that things feel so like knit together.
Knitting together, let's say. It is in the process of happening.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, a thread might still just, you know, make a little U-turn.
Yeah.
And so I guess it would be good to hear from you. How made sense of are you since the last time we asked ourselves this question?
Oh my gosh. It has been a while. It's been like at least a couple months since we answered this question. I would say I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I've had like multiple experiences in the last 6 weeks or so that have been like on the medium scale of hard. You know what I mean? Like just like little blips and bloops here and there. And I have been like unshakable, which has been really cool. Like I feel fine. I feel like I have a handle on the homeschool thing with my kid. Like, yes, it's scary and every day changes and it's a lot, but it also feels like I understand the why behind it in a really deep way now. And so it's just something that's kind of like woven its way in for sure. And like with work, I feel like I've been just relentlessly challenging myself to lean on other people and to ask for help. And I feel like everyone's showing up and doing the things that I'm asking. And like, it's just going really well. Like we've finally broke 150 members. Like that was kind of like this plateau of like, we've been at like 150 members for the last few months. And that's awesome. But it's like 151, 149, 152, 148. Like it's just the drama of a membership organization. And we just popped up to 162. So
Nice.
we finally like through the plateau. And it feels like that. Like it feels like there's a new energy. There's a bunch of new people. We just announced to the whole membership that our program, Making Sense of Yourself, is free to them. We've had a lot of really good energy around that. So yeah, I feel like everything with work has been really good. And then I don't know, physically, like I've been trying to put extra time on my own health and like going and doing like all of my appointments. I have ADHD, and so that's particularly hard for me to like follow through on like making appointments. And I got this this recommendation from my therapist to put all of my to-dos that I don't want to do into a jar, like one on each piece of paper, and put them into a jar. Alfie, I did all of them just because they were in a freaking jar. Like seriously, I don't know if it's just me and I'm real susceptible to these kinds of gimmicks, but it worked. I like had like 9 things that I was dreading scheduling and getting done. And so yeah, I have like everything from eye doctors to lady doctors to dentist appointments, like everything over the next couple of months. So I feel like that feels good. Like picking up back into like regular life after some very, very hard times of not paying attention to that stuff. So yeah, I think I'm fairly made sense of, I feel.
Yeah.
Knock on all the wood.
I do have to say, I think the last time we actually answered this question, I think, we had sort of closed off the train station analogy. You kind of had mentioned the fact that, you feel like that is not necessarily a thing that is on your mind at the moment. And then you obviously had a whole bunch of change in your life with regards to your kid. And so I know how much of a step forward it is to be able to say that you're fine at this stage.
Yeah.
I think most people will say they're fine, and it's just, I'm trying to not answer.
No.
But knowing the different times that you've said that when things are not fine, for you to be able to say that you're fine is evidence of a lot of work that you've put in.
Yeah. Like I'm fine with a period, not like fine with an ellipses. It's not like I'm fine, ... trailing off. Like, no, I'm fine. Like I had a meeting with my therapist recently and with my psychiatrist, both of whom were like, dude, you're fine. And I'm like, I know. Isn't that cool? And they're like, yes.
No, that's good.
So yeah, we've moved through some stuff. So I feel like it's definitely, yeah, it feels good to be on this side. And you're right about the train metaphor being retired. Like, I feel like it would be like quite a drive to get to the train station. That seems like a lot of bother at this point. Like I'm over here living my life.
Remember where it is?
No, I'd have to look up directions.
Might need GPS to get back.
I would have to look up directions on my phone of how to get there. So yeah, that's how things are. So yeah, I'm glad we got to catch up after the episode and chat. I really am I'm looking forward to coming months and figuring out like what the right themes are. I'm not quite sure what next month's going to be, but I think it's going to be about values and about like living into our values and making decisions based on our values. I think that might be where we go. So stay tuned.
Look forward to it.
Sense making isn't a solo act. It's definitely a team sport. At the Sensemakers Club, we believe the best clarity comes through community. Our members gather online to unpack complex ideas, challenge assumptions, and grow together. Whether you're leading change or navigating one, there's a conversation waiting for you. Visit thesensemakersclub.com and use the code ILISTEN to get 50% off your first 3 months. Thanks for listening, Sensemaker, and until next time, be clear.